Hi, welcome back to this training course on fundraising for marine protected areas. My name is Laura Atonde, and continuing on from the previous modules, this video tutorial will give you some keys to develop your fundraising proposal. We will outline the development of a fundraising proposal to access two international public funding sources. The Green Climate Fund, which may represent opportunities for non-EU countries, and the LIFE program for EU marine protected areas. The approach will of course need to be adapted to access other sources of fundings and donors. Let's first begin by exploring the funding proposal processes to access GCF funding. The Green Climate Fund, or GCF, is a financial mechanism of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, whose objective is to help developing countries reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and strengthen their capacity to adapt to climate change. The GCF addresses 8 priority areas of actions. 4 areas are related to mitigation: energy production and access, transport, forestry and land use, and buildings, cities and industry. And 4 areas of intervention are related to adaptation to climate change: health, food and water security, livelihood, infrastructure and ecosystem services. The activities of marine protected areas can therefore be eligible. Applications for GCF funding are made through accredited entities. There are two types of accredited entities. Direct access entities are subnational, national, or regional organizations that have obtained accreditation to the GCF in order to be able to obtain its funding directly. Entities with international or multilateral access include, for example, multilateral development banks or United Nations agencies. Project proposals are made through focal points, the national designated authorities. Mediterranean countries with MPAs eligible for funding from the GCF are Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Albania, and Montenegro. However, as of July 2022, only 4 of these countries had projects financed by the GCF, yet the funding opportunities are significant. Here are some examples of entities accredited to the GCF. Colored logos are the direct access entities, national and regional, existing in the Mediterranean area. Gray logos are examples of international accredited entities. For information, here are some marine and coastal ecosystems projects funded by the GCF. One project focuses on protecting marine ecosystems and supporting coastal communities to deal with the impact of climate change in the Indian Ocean. The second project supports a private equity fund that aims to protect coral reefs in Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean. For more information, please scan the QR code. Here is a simplified overview of the GCF project proposal submission process. If your MPA wishes to apply for GCF funding for a project, you must first contact the National Designated Authority, or NDA, in your country. To find your NDA, scan the QR code and select your country. Then go to the Contact section. The next step is to create a concept note to be submitted by either the NDA or the accredited entity. The concept note is a summary presentation of the project, which gives the possibility to have a first feedback on the project concept from the GCF Secretariat. Although optional, the submission of a concept note is strongly recommended as it optimizes the quality of the final project proposal. The next step covers the development and the submission of the funding proposal by the accredited entity. The funding proposal is then reviewed by the GCF Secretariat, which conducts a formal evaluation. Finally, the funding proposal is submitted to the GCF board for approval. Note that for small projects and programs, it is also possible to use a simplified approval process or GCF SAP. Adopted in October 2017, it has the advantage of simplifying the application procedures by reducing the amount of document required, simplifying the criteria to be filled in, and the review and approval processes. To access SAP, three conditions must be met. The project must be ready for scaling up and have transformative potential for climate change, adaptation, or mitigation. The request for funding to the GCF must not exceed 25 million US dollars of the total project budget. The environmental and social risk of the project must be minimal. The concept note must be based on a template which is composed of four sections. A project program summary section which intends to obtain key information about the project or program, such as its cost and the financial instrument requested. A project program information section which intends to collect information to assess the viability of the project or program, such as its description and the expected results. An indicative financing cost information section to provide cost information and the requested amount, a supporting documents section for the annexes. The concept note must not exceed 12 pages. Note that in the context of the SAP, the concept note must contain a maximum of 6 pages. The funding proposal template is more complete than the concept note as it is composed of 8 different sections. Like the concept note, the funding proposal template has project program summary, project program information, and financing information sections. The funding proposal must also contain the following sections: expected performance against the investment criteria, logical framework, risk assessment and management, and GCF policies and standards. Note that some information contained in these new categories is information requested in the concept note, but with a more reinforced level of detail, such as criterion B3 of the concept note that is developed in section D of the funding proposal. Note that the SAP process does not require the same level of information, with a maximum of 20 pages for the funding proposal compared to 60 for the traditional process. Let's now explore the EU LIFE program and its funding proposal process. Created in 1992, the LIFE program is an EU funding program for environment and climate action. The program is thus a key contributor to the European Green Deal, which aims to put the EU on the path of ecological transition with the objective of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The LIFE program is structured around 4 sub-programs grouped in 2 fields. The sub-program Nature and Biodiversity and Circular Economy and Quality of Life are part of the environment field. The sub-programs Climate Change, Mitigation and Adaptation, and Clean Energy Transition are grouped around the field Climate Action. All legal entities registered in the EU can apply for funding. Third countries associated to the LIFE program or legal entity created under Union law or any international organization can also be eligible. Since its launch, the program has co-financed more than 5,500 projects in the European Union and third countries. Funding for the LIFE program for the period 2021-2027 amounts to 5.4 billion euros. The LIFE program has co-funded 120 marine projects that have mobilized 320 million euros, including an EU contribution of 170 million euros. More than 50 projects have been co-funded in the Mediterranean area. LIFE funds allow the designation over 5,000 square kilometers of marine Natura 2000 sites in the region. What does a call for proposals look like? Live Call for Proposal 2022 opened in July 2022. Several project category options can be submitted. Traditional projects are live standard action projects, but there are also grants for technical assistance and strategic nature projects which focused on the implementation of key national and regional environment strategy, including the prioritized action framework pursuant to the Habitat Directive. The 2022 SAP Nature and Biodiversity Call for Proposals covers two areas of intervention: space for nature and safeguarding our spaces. The application process is classic. All the applications must be done online via the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. The online form contains four sections: Part A, administrative information; Part B, in financial content of the proposal; Part C, additional project data; and annexes. The application and evaluation process is standard. After submission, an evaluation committee assisted by independent experts will assess all the applications. Thank you for your attention. Following this video tutorial, we ask you to complete the assessment for Module 7, which you will find on medpan.org. This short test will allow you to check your understanding of the topics covered in this module. Also note that you will find all the resources mentioned in this tutorial, as well as additional useful resources in the training manual. Goodbye, and see you soon for the face-to-face session.